was December 17th of 2018, about just a little bit after 10 o'clock in the morning. I was back in my office doing payroll. It was on a Monday, and that's when I always did my payroll. And
we like to get paid. The policemen do like to get paid.
I've learned, and they carry guns, so you should pay them.
It's a great job. I probably would have done it for free when I was young, but as I got older, I definitely like those paychecks.
Exactly. Well, it wasn't a whole lot going on that morning for me. I was just trying to get payroll done before I ventured out and did anything else. And I heard my corporal yelling for me, and I didn't know what was going on. I could just tell by his voice that it was something very serious.
This was over the radio?
No, in person. He was down the hall yelling for me. He was actually, I found out later, I didn't know at that time, but he was actually in the foyer near my lieutenant's office where the public can enter, and he came from there and was yelling as he went down the hall for me, which was interesting because my lieutenant was right there, and two other officers were right there also, and he bypassed them and went to me, which I kind of think maybe when he heard what he was told, I think maybe he had a little tunnel vision, and that's what happened. But I bounced up and ran out and tried to find out what's going on, and he just, as soon as he saw me, he turned and started running the other way. He said, we got to go. The guy came in and said he threw his baby in a pond on Doc Henry Road. Yeah, that's all I knew at that moment.
So this guy actually came into the police station and said what he did.
Yeah.
And this is December.
Yeah, December 17th.
In Missouri.
Yeah, about 22 degrees that morning.
Jesus.
And so, and it had been real cold all that weekend prior to, but I'm running behind him, running down the hall, and as I go down the hall toward the end of the hall before you take a right turn to go out into the foyer, my lieutenant's office was right there and his door's open. And as I go past, I look and I see the suspect, and I just, at that moment, I knew who it was. I knew he was the suspect. I didn't know the guy, but he's sitting in a chair behind a desk, and when I looked in there and saw him, it's just, there's nothing there.
It's a blank stare.
Oh, yeah. And so I knew, okay, that's the guy. He's not restrained, but I've got 3 people in the PD right there. Well, I keep going, follow my corporal out. We get in our cruisers. We go to where the pond is, bail out and run down. This bank is probably, the pond's 60 yards probably from the roadside, 70 maybe, not very far. Broke through a little bit of ice at the edge of the pond. End up getting a hold of the baby. My corporal actually got the baby first and was trying. He was back on the bank with the baby and was trying to give her CPR. Just couldn't get anything to happen. And once I finally got up to where I could be with him again, he kind of, and I don't know if he handed her to me or I took her, but I ended up with the baby face down in the palm of my hand and just was working on her, trying to do something. I turned her. He actually got her back, turned her back over, and I don't know if he told me to do it or if I just did it, but I started clearing stuff out of her throat, and I knew there wasn't any air getting in her. There wasn't any air coming out, and so when we held her mouth open, I took 2 fingers, and man, I couldn't tell you how deep I went. I mean, it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
how old was she?
6 months.
Okay,
Jesus.
brand new baby.
So
Yeah.
you're driving in the car with the other officer. You're heading this way. How far are you from the police station?
Yeah, we were in separate cruisers. We're probably where that call was, maybe 2 miles, 2.5 miles from the PD. It wasn't very far.
Yeah.
So you get out. You both roll out of your cars. You run. I assume you're kind of scouring the pond to see where this child might be. You don't have an exact idea.
Right.
What kind of horror do you have inside of you when you're just looking at that bank? I mean, what's going through your head?
Nothing. Honest to God. I mean, I'm glad I had the forethought to strip gear as I'm running, but no. As far as the thoughts going through my head at that point, it was like every time that I ended up in a fight, there's no thought. It's win. That's all it is. It's win. And so that was the process. And when I got to the edge of the pond and when I saw the baby,
Damn.
she was face down, floating. Thank God she was floating. But her skin was just pure white. And I honestly thought and I said this before, but I honestly thought that this was a porcelain doll. I thought that at this time,
That white.
this guy's whacked.
Yeah.
You know,
No, you didn't. So you literally thought this guy's just crazy. He threw a
Yeah.
doll in the water.
Until I touched that skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
How
then it
far was she? I mean, you had to break the ice at the edge of the pond to get to her.
She's about 12, maybe 14 feet up. He threw her.
Yeah.
And in his federal statement, he actually said he stood at the edge of the pond, threw her as far as he could, and stood there and watched her sink out of sight before he left to go to the PD. They estimate she was in that water for 12 to 14 minutes.
So how long did it take? I mean, was the water pretty deep? Did you waded in?
No, it wasn't deep. It wasn't very deep, luckily. But maybe waist deep at the most, maybe just a little bit above that. But you know, and I don't want to venture off into this side of this unless that's where you guys want to take it. But you know, even the nightmares I've had since then, the water looks the exact same way it did that day, and that is, it's just the color of that. I mean, it's just a pure dark color, and then you've got this one white speck right there. I mean, there was no mistaking where that baby was.
Right.
And you know,
Dude, that is horrible to. I mean, you spoke to the nightmares, but I mean, the thought of even seeing something like that. I mean, most people can't deal with it, much less react. There's a lot of people that would have frozen in that situation, you know, but you went in, grabbed the baby, resuscitated the baby. That's what you a motherfucking hero.
Well, I just about promise you there's everybody in this room would do the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm just the one that made a wave and all this happened to.
I think you're being a little modest. There's a lot of people that don't act that way.
Well, hopefully they're not the ones that are still in law enforcement.
But I was just going to say, then they shouldn't be cops. If there's any cop in the country or fireman or EMT guy, you know, someone who's being paid to do their job, if they're not wading into that water and doing that, they have no business being employed.
Exactly.
So you guys you're working, flipping the baby, and I mean, even that goes back to obviously basic CPR choking stuff that you learn, you know, in the academy for infants. What you're doing, flipping them back and forth and all that. Yeah.
Yep. So we got the airway cleared, and I still to this day when I did, and of course I don't think about it very much. That's not why the hell would I? I don't want to. But the amount of stuff I pulled out of that little girl's throat, I don't know how the hell it got in. Well, obviously she's breathing, gasping for air.
Yep.
And is sucking in the weeds and the moss and whatever's under the water. But man, I mean, it was just. I think I did 3 swipes over her throat, and I'm knuckle deep, and I'm just pulling out gobs of stuff, you know. And then once I felt like there was enough out of there, I wiped her eyes, and hell, her eyes were just mudded shut, you know, just full of mud. And so once her airway was clear, I mean, that's what it took, you know. A little more CPR, and we got just a little bit of a whimper out of her. And my corporal, probably one of the best guys that I've ever met as far as police go, tells it like it is 100%, and very, very, not cold-hearted, I call him strong-hearted. And when I looked up at him after that whimper, I thought we were going to both start bawling.
Sure.
I thought we were going to fall apart. He was a new father at that time.
You a father yourself?
Of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so once we got that whimper, we kind of had that little millisecond in there where do we fall apart or not? And we got her up to his cruiser because it was still running. He was smart enough to leave his running. I wasn't. And we got her in the front seat of his cruiser, got all the air vents on her, heater blowing as hard as it can go. I stripped down out of just about all of it out on the side of the road to cover her in what's not wet, you know, to help her get warm. She's got a diaper on, that's it, nothing else. You know, just kept rubbing her front, back, you know, trying to dry her hair and stuff, just trying to get her warmed up somehow, get her body temperature going. And I do want to say that pertaining to what we were just talking about, you know, well, I said anybody in this room would have done the same. one thing I want to make clear to you guys is her body temperature was 87.6 degrees.
Wow.
Now, that's after she'd already gotten to the hospital. That's 45 minutes after getting her out of the pond, probably, is my guess. At that kind of a body temperature, her organs have slowed down, quite a bit. And yeah, we did our part. I'm not going to take away from that, but her organs being slowed down like that body temperature being like it was, is what really, really saved that kid's life.